This is Andreas, and you're listening to Breakdowns for Breakfast. Oh, yeah.
Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast. I am your host, Danger, and joining me is a fellow that I cannot properly break down an album without, Monster. Say hi, Monster.
Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. And I would say, how are you? But I'm going to skip to the next part. So on this episode, on this episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast, we have our first guest with us, TJ from The Ongoing Concept. Say hi, TJ.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Oh, so you answer him.
I'm the guest. I'm the important one, right? So
right.
That's true.
It's all about priorities.
No.
Man.
I can't believe you
Thank
didn't
you guys
say
for
a
having
very
me. I'm happy to be here.
special guest, you know?
Sorry, we have a very special guest, TJ.
Thank you.
Whatever. On this episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast, we're going to be talking about the album Polarity from the band The Wedding, released April 17th, 2007. Now, when TJ, you actually suggested that we do this album, and I told you that we actually had already talked about doing this one, which Monster wanted to bring to the table. And so...
Hold on, specifically Monster's wife. She's the one who requested it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So, TJ, why did you suggest this one? Because I was a little surprised when you did, considering we already had it.
It's super weird, that you guys had already had it, because I feel like I have not really talked to anybody that's listened to this record. That's kind of why I put it out there, because I was like, this is one of my favorite albums, because I was 14 when I bought this record at a record store. Like, I have a vivid memory of like putting this album in my CD player as a kid, like ripping it open to put it. So like for you guys to even know what this is pretty insane to me. But yeah.
So as we were talking about off mics, my wife and I have now been together for 17 years. So I have been at least somewhat familiar with this record for about 17 years because she absolutely loves it. And so I have heard it quite a bit over the years. And it's cool. It's very eclectic for being, I sort of listen to, funny thing about my wife, she has bands that she loves, but specifically albums. So like she loves The Wedding, but basically just this album. Like she has some of the other ones, but this is the one she listens to. Same as we did an episode on The Killer, Sam's Town. She doesn't own any other Killers albums, just that one, and she loves it. So
oh wow, okay.
So we've definitely heard this one. I've heard this one a lot over the years.
So
yeah, this is actually the only Wedding album that I enjoy, because they put stuff out before and after, and for some reason, this album is the only one that ever clicked with me.
And I know why.
We'll discuss it further, but okay.
And I think I know exactly. I think I know exactly why you don't like the ones after this. But in a funny turn of events, I was doing some research. I think I like the ones after this more, and I'll explain why when we get there.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear.
So you guys have a lot of history with this album. I do not. Actually, I had never listened to this album. I had heard The Wedding before. We all grew up in the church and in that music scene, of course, and so it was hard to avoid some of the bands, and The Wedding was a band that was absolutely hard to avoid. But I can't say that I'd ever actually listened to this album before. So you guys have a long-standing fondness of this album. Monster, I know you have at least 17 years of fondness with this album. TJ, I don't know how many years you have.
Let's say you opened it when you were 14. How old are you now?
31. So yeah, about the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually, I do want to go back to something that you said, TJ, because there's a great thing about what you were getting at, that you got the album and you tore it open. Like the whole act of like buying a new CD and opening it, I don't know. It's something that just doesn't exist anymore. Well, not on the level that it used to, of course, but so I went into this one a lot more blind than you guys do. And so I have a very different perspective on this album than you guys.
So had you heard anything from this record prior to listening to this all the way through?
I want to say yes, but, Monster and I have talked about in the past that there's albums that, we'll suggest to each other. And it's, I've heard a song or two from that before. So I feel like I have, But to be honest with you, one of my biggest things about this one is this is so like Midwest scream or second wave emo that it's like I feel like I'd heard this in the mix of the rest of the bands that kind of share that same, that same landscape.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, because I mean, you listen to the record and you're like, I hear all the influences, everything that was from this time, like coalescing into this record. Like, it's definitely not like a singular sound by any means.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was something that, I've mentioned on the show 100 times. A lot of my favorite bands are very eclectic. They mix a lot of genres. 311's my favorite band because of that. I'm a big fan of the Ongoing Concept for the same reason. I like bands that really mix genres. And when I listened to a little bit of the album before this one, it felt very straightforward pop punk, kind of on the softer side. And so I really didn't, I wasn't really feeling that one as much. But this one, like you said, there is a lot of that Midwest emo, screamo kind of stuff. But then there's these like big Southern rock riffs. And then there's songs that have these like their piano ballads. So it is a really interesting mix of stuff. And when I was doing a little bit of research for this and I was thinking about it, this album came out in 2007. And right around this time, you had a lot of bands that were starting to either pop up or starting to shift their sound slightly to incorporate more of that like dirty South rock and roll kind of vibe. Because I was thinking about this, like Suck Out the Poison by He Is Legend came out in 2006. Wake up, the moon is going to play. Well, I watch you sink into the depths of your life. You had Maylene and the Sons of Disaster coming out in 2005. And I think that was like kind of pushing a lot of specifically Christian. I know He Is Legend's not really a Christian band, but they were on Solid State. So kind of in that bubble, they were all starting to kind of throw in a little bit of that. Another band I liked a lot, The Showdown, had an album in 2007 called Temptation Come My Way. Huge rock and roll riffs when they were more of a metalcore band before that.
Yeah, The Showdown was a lot more leaning into that like Southern metal kind of stuff. Yeah, I definitely remember that around the same time for sure.
And it's funny because that Southern metal around this time was a lot better than the Southern metal became later, because I feel like later it became more, I don't know how to say it better than just like Confederate flag, Leonard Skinner, more influenced Southern metal.
Kid Rock core.
Yeah, Kid Rock core. That's a good one. I
love that we just put core at the end of anything and it becomes a genre.
I mean, we did it with your band. We're now calling it Potato Core, TJ, and so
I think
it's going to be official eventually. It'll be on like the Wikipedia at the top of it.
Yes, the ongoing concept, Potato Core originator.
So one more thing about this band, and TJ, you had mentioned you weren't a big fan of what they put out after this. Around this time, another band that was kind of, they never really got super popular. They did one album and came out in 2004. Have you ever, either one of you ever listened to a band called Letter Kills?
Yeah. Not intently, but I've heard Letter Kills.
Okay, so back in like 2004, 2005, me and my buddies are going to see bands and stuff, and I've made it clear on the show I'm not the biggest fan of stuff like The Used and My Chemical Romance. Like I like it, but it's not my thing. Well, 2004, it was like the Nintendo Fusion Tour or something, and it was like My Chemical Romance, Story of the Year, Autopilot Off, and Letter Kills. And when everybody else walked out in like girl jeans and swoopy hair, Letter Kills walked out in cowboy boots and denim jackets and stuff. And they started playing songs kind of like the more Southern rock stuff off of this album. And I bought the album and I remember listening to it thinking, these guys kind of sound like a Christian band. They don't like, there's nothing super blatant, but there's a lot of, interpretive things there. And when I was doing research for this, I found out that after this album came out, the lead singer of The Wedding quit because he got married.
That's ironic.
Then Matt Shelton, the lead singer of Letter Kills, took over. And so Letter Kills already had a similar style to The Wedding. So when I discovered that and I started listening to their later albums, I was like, oh my God, it's like Letter Kills albums that I didn't know existed. So for me, I really dug it. And it was like this really cool discovery because I think Letter Kills was one of those bands that should have got more popular. They just, I don't know. I think honestly, they were a little too early. They were doing that Southern rock infused emo screamo just like 2 or 3 years before it caught on.
It's funny you say that it was a little too early because I feel like this album is actually more of the sound of like 2002, 2003 emo that we got out of bands like Jimmy Eat World and all, like the emo when emo stood for emotional instead of what it is now. I think it's funny that you say that they were too early because I feel like this is just a step too late. And I feel like if this album had come out, let's say 3 years earlier, this would have been a whole lot more successful and The Wedding probably would have taken off. And what's his name wouldn't have quit after this album.
After his wedding.
Right. After his wedding. Right.
Incredible.
So I think part of it for me too is when he left the band. I mean, Kevin, I think is his name, the singer. His vocals, like, I love them. I'm really trying hard not to swear. Sorry. I just love his voice so much that like I think it was that when I was like 16 when he left the band or something, and I was like, this isn't the same singer. I'm not going to listen to this band anymore. Like, I love his voice. Like, there's something about his voice that just does it for me. So if he wasn't going to be in the band, I was like, well, I'm not going to listen to this. Well, this isn't the same band.
And Matt Shelton from Letter Kills is not like way out of left field. Like, he's a good mix. Like, he's a good match. But it's not the same guy. And he definitely has his own idiosyncrasies that he brought in that if you weren't familiar with Letter Kills might be strange at first. Like he would make these kind of like sounds and stuff like on Letter Kills albums. I'm serious. Like we would listen to it and crack up. And we would say he's doing the rooster thing again.
Oh, nice.
But it was cool. Like, I don't know. It worked.
I was thinking he made chicken sounds on the album.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But
cool.
It fits. It's Southern rock and he's doing chicken noises. You act like it doesn't make sense.
We don't all have farms.
Check this out.
Yeah, their album is called The Bridge. Letter Kills' album, The Bridge. So good. We'll do it on the show eventually because I can talk about that one for a while.
All right, but this is not a Letter Kills episode. This is an episode about The Wedding.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, good thing I didn't listen to that Letter Kills record. So, I was just gonna kind of preface a lot of kind of what we've been talking about with like the time, because you were mentioning like the showdown and bands that were around. Like I remember what I was discovering at the time were bands like, and you guys probably never heard these, but there's a band called Waverly that had like a similar sound.
No excuses, the time for change is here.
And then there was a band called Edison Glass.
Down. I wish you'd keep the house warm.
That was doing like a lot of weird, interesting things.
Yeah.
So I feel like The Wedding is like almost in that. And then the band Chasing Victory is that like Southern kind of rock metal sound. And they just added all of that into this record. Like it wasn't, I don't know. I know you guys like call it emo and I can't recognize when things are emo because I don't, people will be like, I would have listened to that when I was 15 when I showed them something. And I'm like, oh, that's like an emo song. Okay, I get what you're saying. Like it sounds very adolescent and immature. But to me, I don't really get the emo thing from this as much.
I don't get the emo of, let's say, 2010. Like I was saying, I get the emo of like that early, the early emo, the Sunny Day Real Estate, like I said, Jimmy Eat World, you know. I hear Sunny Day Real Estate all over this album. And it's just the sound of what this is. And That's fine. I have no problem. I mean, Monster could tell you I've brought plenty of emo albums to this show.
He really likes being sad. I haven't quite figured it out, but it's kind of his shtick. For me, it's when I think
I feel deeply.
There's
I
a little
can't, so
bit
the music has to do it for me.
There you go.
That's what it is.
I think when I say emo, I'm thinking of sort of like, for example, one of the guys from Reliant K produced this album.
Oh,
and
I didn't take on who the producers were here. So
yeah, he produced a lot of the early Reliant K stuff and like wrote a lot of the stuff with them.
Okay,
and so like Reliant K is one of those bands too that like kind of teeters that line between pop punk and emo, and they never really got into like this kind of like more riffage and the harsher vocals, or at least maybe they did a little bit later, but I know those first couple records were the ones I heard and it was a little softer. But then there's also sort of that like something corporate flavor of emo piano rock kind of stuff going on here too, that again, this is just such a hodgepodge of different stuff that it's, I was just, Danger, you said this is the first time you've listened to it. Were you kind of surprised as you went through and like each song it's one of those albums where it's like, you don't know what the next song is going to sound like.
Okay. So what I will say for this entire album, as far as that, yes, I was surprised with how the album is laid out. I think it's actually laid out in a really smart way, because just when I was getting to a point of like I needed a change, they changed it on the next song. They gave us a couple slowdown points, and it was very smart where they put them. Actually, what we've talked about Monster in the past about, is this an album or a collection of singles? Like the Falling in Reverse album is the best example of a collection of singles. I feel like this was written not necessarily as an album, but I feel like it's like they went in with the intention of writing this, and they laid it out in a smart way. But I don't feel like the songs, connect to each other or anything like that. But I do feel like it flowed really, really well. And I thought that was great. I know that the short intros are becoming more and more popular. And I know you guys do it on every album, TJ. But, I was a little surprised to see it this early and things. Yeah, no, it's fine. But I was surprised to see it this early in the things, because I didn't know that it was happening this early. I knew there were intro tracks and stuff, but not even a minute long for the first track.
I feel like we should just go ahead and jump into the song by song. We're already talking about the intro track and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I didn't get a lot through headphones with this album. There were little bits of things, and I'm sure you guys both have listened to this in headphones, but really the thing that I heard more through headphones was cowbell. I just heard more cowbell through headphones.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really get it through speakers, but once I heard it in headphones, I couldn't not hear it in speakers. So, this is a good car album, by the way.
Yeah, and do you picture Will Ferrell every single time from Saturday Night Live, Blue Oyster Cult?
I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, all right, let's just jump into it. So, track 1, The Call. "47 seconds. It's just a little intro that just builds into track 2. Don't really have a lot to say about it.
I've been walking around the house going bump ba da da bump ba da da bump ba da da. It's very earwormy. Like whether you
this album is earwormy.
Well, yeah, it's hooky as hell. Yeah, it's one of those things that like it doesn't do anything necessarily like important, but it's fun.
Yeah, right. So, all right.
Yeah, I kind of think it sets the tone for the record too. Sorry, I don't mean to like.
No, it's fine.
Jump in here, but,
it's fine. You're here. You should also have something to say about the songs.
Yes, please talk over us, please.
So, God, listen, guys. So Dan Spencer from the OC Supertones actually tracked all the horns that were on this.
Oh, shit, that's cool.
There's an amalgamation of different musicians and artists that put their stamp on this record, and I think that's why you get things like this with the horns. You have like a really well-versed horn player, bring him into the studio, and then you have Mark Lee Townsend, who's like throw a bunch of delay and reverb on this thing, and this is how we're going to start the record. And I think it sets the tone really well because you're kind of just like, what is this? And that's kind of how the whole record is to me. It's like, what's happening?
And I'm glad that you have some of that information because it's not readily available online, at least not in the usual places I can dig up. So, and I know my wife has the CD booklet somewhere, but Lord knows where. So,
got it right.
Yeah, there we go. He's got the liner notes handy. We're good.
All right. All right. So our guests are wrong props.
Everywhere.
The lyrics are wrong.
Yeah. Well, so I was going on Spotify and I was looking at the lyrics while I was listening to the record part of it because, you know, there's like occasionally where you're like, have I been thinking that word was the wrong word the whole time? So I was looking on Spotify, I'm like, none of these lyrics are right, like at all. Like some of them are insane. Like I don't know where they're pulling them from, but
can't
like
believe how many times the F word is in here. My God.
There's like, we could cut this, but there's like talk about like rape and stuff in some of the lyrics if you go on Spotify.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. So and
when,
then Genius is not any better because it's all just guessing. So
yeah. So I sat down with headphones on and listened to it the whole way through, like beginning to end, and like read there. I think there's lyrics for every song on Spotify, which is kind of rare for a lot of albums. But I was reading along going, that's not right. That's not what he said. So, you know, it's all good. All good. So, all right, track 2, Say Your Prayers. I feel like this is a pop rock anthem. Like this, I feel like the first 3 songs on this, including The Call, because I feel like The Call did a good job of like letting you know that you hit play and it just kind of warmed you up to it. So, you know, then we get Say Your Prayers. It's a damn good song. I like this one. Just gonna, So.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great, like, you know, you got the little intro, but as far as like the first song on your album, I think this one rocks. This one kicks a lot of ass. It's got a cool riff and it brings back some of that horn sound from the intro to kind of incorporate it. And like TJ was saying, it does a nice job of kind of giving you an idea of, yeah, we're going to rock, but we're going to have hooks. It's going to be catchy and melodic. We're also going to throw in horns and do a big band bridge.
Yeah.
There's going to be these weird eclectic moments throughout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think this song, this is the first song I ever heard by this band. I grew up watching like TVU and listening to Radio U, and this music video, I was like, oh, I'm going to buy that record. Like I saw the video, I was like, I have to own this because the song just clicked with me. And I think this just sets the tone for the entire record because you're hearing the horns, you're hearing like all the gang vocals, which is all over this record, all the guitar slides that are everywhere on the like. There's not anything that's in this song that's not represented anywhere else. You know, like maybe you're not getting the piano ballads, but you're kind of set up for what you're getting into for this record.
Yeah.
So,
and we've actually talked about how like the first song on an album should, you know, introduce you to everything that you're about to get. And Say Your Prayers does a damn fine job of it. I mean, it's, if you don't get anything out of this one, you're not going to get anything out of the rest of the album. You know, if you can't, like every sound that you hear in this song is found elsewhere in the album. And I appreciate that. You know, I'm glad you said, what's his name from Supertones, Track the Horns?
Oh, Dan Spencer, yeah.
Yeah, which that must be why the horns just sound so well mixed. Like the whole album sounds really well done, you know. But yeah, the trombone in this intro, like this song, just, it made me happy. I just went back to a thing in my head of when I was listening to it of Monster doing trombone motions. Like my
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that's a trumpet, not a trombone, but like
I know there's a trumpet later, but
horn.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah. The horn, the wind section is great.
And it's not a wind instrument, but anyway,
I thought wind was when you blow.
There's air involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're blowing it. You're blowing it.
I
Literally,
like the sounds of this song.
Yes. I don't know all of the lyrics of the song, off the top of my head, but I've always really, really liked that line. If you love me, then just love me. Don't just give me pretty words. I always thought that was such a really cool line.
Well, if you love me, then just love me. Don't you give me pretty words.
And I like the way he sings it as well. It's good.
Yeah, I think even if you don't have context for the lyrics, like the lyrics still stick out. Like the way that he phrases stuff, I think, is just so fascinating. And his word choice, even if you don't, like I said, if you don't have context for the rest of the song, like you hear somebody yelling at you, like, look up, say your prayers, like it just kind of like evokes something in you, or it did for me. And then even like simple things like saying corporate carnivores and just like the vowel sounds next to each other.
The imagery that brings
words.
up too.
Just like so well done. That those are the things for me in music that really like stand out. I'm like, ooh, I want to hear that again. I want to hear him say corporate carnivore. Like just those moments really, I love that. And then that bass line, so good on this song and the bridge.
And one other thing I'll mention too. So 2000, you said you were 15
when this came out. Yeah, I was 14. Yeah.
So I graduated high school in 2004. So I would have been, a few years older, but like early 20s. When I was younger, I was playing in Christian bands, and we were like advertising ourselves as a Christian band. And I always liked hearing other Christian bands that could be very blunt lyrically about what they were trying to say without coming across cheesy or like overly praise and worshipy. And there's a couple other lines later that I'll bring up, but these guys do a really good job of being very clear and very upfront, but never like cheesy with it. Like it sounds very like they mean it when they say it. As a young person, it feels good to hear a band say it that way, Yeah.
And I agree with what you were saying, TJ. It's that like, there are certain words, certain lines that definitely jump out. And I didn't take note of the corporate carnivore part, but I was like, oh, that's fun. I like that. So,
yeah, that's funny. Yeah. And the guitar line, I think it comes in. Oh, I have it written down. I think it's 218. The bow down, 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 down. That has been stuck in my head since the first time I heard it. Like those guitar riffs, I think his name is Cody who wrote the guitars. Just some of the catchy, it's so simple. It's like 3 notes, but like so catchy. And I love that stuff. Like those hooks just really get me.
Cody Driggers, Driggers, is the guitar vocals. So, yeah, we had talked about any of it.
All the screams on the record as well.
Okay.
From what I know, yeah.
There's like 3 people listed as vocals. So
I was going to say, I think there's a couple parts where some of the other guys take lead on a song or two, because there's 1 or 2 parts where I was like, this guy sounds like somebody else. And I'll bring that up when we get to it. But
yeah, it definitely happens on this record quite a bit.
Cool.
All right.
I like that.
So track 3, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. Now this one was an interesting one for me, because as soon as I heard the bagpipes, I got excited, because I love bagpipe. Bagpipes are great in a song, but years ago I went to a hotel manager training thing, and one of the days I was there was St. Patrick's Day, and they had a bagpipe player for the dinner music, which bagpipes are horrible dinner music, especially when it's like right in front of you, because bagpipes are loud, very loud. So
you cannot suppress that.
No. There's no acoustic bagpipe. It is what it is.
And there's always like the constant like wheezing tone that's coming out of it. Yeah, it's not a pleasant sound.
No. I like bagpipes, but go on, Monster.
Yeah, so I like this song too. Once I got over the fact that it wasn't going to kick into a Korn song and it was going to kick into a song by The Wedding, then I was like, okay, I'm on board. I just had to get past that first hurdle.
Well, see, I don't feel like it kicked into a song by The Wedding. I feel like The Wedding did a really good job of doing a Dropkick Murphys or Thrice song. Dropkick Thrice.
More Thrice than Dropkick because the bagpipes kind of stop. Like it's just sort of like the intro. Then it's a little more straightforward. But like TJ mentioned before, we got the gang vocals with the hey, hey, heys in the verses, which is cool. And also like whenever that last line of each verse before it goes into the chorus where the guitar stops and they'll like gang vocal one line. Like I think on the first one, it says something about, going into a fight and says, we go for the knockout.
It's if you force us to fight, we go for the knockout.
Yeah, all the chanting on this, it gives me, I don't know, it's like Flogging Molly. It's just like Irish pub. Like it just kind of gets you into that vibe and then it kind of takes you out of it just as soon as you kind of get into it. The bagpipe player was actually from Flatfoot 56. So he put the track down for that, which I think is pretty interesting too.
I'm glad you brought this back.
Yeah,
knowledge.
I love this song.
Oh yeah.
I dive into music when I like it. So
no, that's perfect. And I wish I had that information handy. So I'm glad you do. Another part about this song that I really like, and Danger's heard me say this a million times on this show, I am a sucker for when the beat goes halftime. So I love that the verses are like straightforward, more like, punk rock. And then the chorus like cuts that in half and you got more of like a groove there. I like the dynamics shift there.
See, I felt the chorus was really when they put their thrice forward. And so like, I feel like that was when that really came out. The rest of the song, the verses are all, I feel like a Dropkick Murphys type song. It's just got that type of energy to it. So
a little more skate punk. And then because of the bagpipes at the beginning, it kind of flavors it Irish.
Yeah. Bagpipes flavor things, I guess.
I think this song shows really well of how they compose songs. Because within the verses, you get like 4 different parts. You're not just hearing like the same palm muted guitar bit. Like they change it up like every 4 measures so that you're not losing interest in what's happening. And then they go into like the weird kind of chuggy kind of stuff in like during the pre-choruses. I really love how the guitars in this song specifically are. And I don't think this is one of their best songs, or this is a great song on the record, or one of the greatest, but I think the composition really shows they're good songwriters. And like, I think Mark Lee Townsend had a lot to do with that in the studio with them. Cause it reminds me a lot of stuff that like Reliant K would do back in the day, or even on like their 5 Scored 7 Years Ago album with just kind of the chunkier guitar stuff. But yeah, I love this song.
All right. So let's move on to track 4, Staring at the Light.
And take your life back with a vengeance for the first time you can know of true love. Promise me you'll never sleep again.
Everything TJ just said about the last song is kind of how I feel about this song. I love the way the verse has like all these different like pieces to it. You've got, it starts with sort of like almost getting into that new metal kind of kind of like at this like heavy riff, but then it like immediately switches up to this kind of like swingier beat. And then you get into this chorus that's just huge and hooky. This song is like my sweet spot because you're changing up the rhythms. You've got groove, but then you've got hooks. And yeah, this is probably my favorite song on the album.
Oh, I really liked the intro on this one. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you that track 4 is when, like, I really enjoyed tracks 1, 2, and 3, even though 1 was only 47 seconds. Track 4, I really liked chunks of it. this is where so there in the first part of this, the first couple tracks, we got what I felt like was a very different sound from the rest of the album, because this is where I felt like we started going more into that Midwest emo. I mean, the vocals on this one really reminded me of Sunny Day Real Estate, like big time. Mm-hmm. And I actually feel like this actually sounded kind of between a homegrown song and a Sunny Day Real Estate song up until 213. Then I kind of lost this one, and it's 3 minutes 45 seconds, and so I was good up until 213.
Okay, and that's when it reminds me of like so much of like A Day to Remember, like those.
Yes. Okay.
So like cheesy, just like chunky, like guitar breakdowns with
I said it was.
I see that.
I said it was like the sugariest metalcore breakdown I've ever heard, because it's like they're trying to do the like jun jun jun, but then all the other like instruments are coloring it in this like sunshiny bright sort of way that is like you mentioned A Day to Remember, and we got fussed at by some A Day to Remember fans because we weren't super high on them, but
oh man, I love that episode because I was like, oh, you guys don't get it either? Cool.
yeah, like it's really cool, like for a song or two, but then dudes do it like every song. But that's why I think I don't mind it, is because the juxtaposition of the chug with the like sunny color on top, and they don't do it every song. It's a couple more times throughout the album, but I like this one. I like that part a lot.
Yeah, I love his vocals that soar over that too, like that lead line. The way that he can kind of hit those like higher notes, there's just like a texture in his voice that I really love when he gets up in that register. And yeah, I mean, I can see it is what it is. Like I understand what they're going for. I think also it's pretty early on, because like Newfound Glory was starting to do breakdowns or like similar stuff around the same time, right?
Yeah, they were the Newfound Glory.
But like A Day to Remember wasn't even around, so
I had a hard time.
Because when we did
you can't
that,
remember them at this time.
Well, because when we did that A Day to Remember album, I remember seeing that Newfound Glory were the guys that came up with the term easycore. And so they were kind of one of the first to start to just throw in the occasional breakdown. And if you like that kind of stuff and you don't think A Day to Remember is all that good either, I highly recommend listening to Chunk No Captain Chunk. They are awesome. They are very cool. You don't like them either?
Man, I just remember seeing the music video where they're at like the party in the backyard, and that was everywhere for so long.
It was.
But I've actually like did a deep dive on them probably a couple years ago, so my memory's not the greatest, but they're a really fascinating band. Like I don't like their music, but I just the fact that like they've remained and like sustained a career is just insane for what it started out as.
And part of the reason I think that they don't always land for people is because, first of all, easycore is just a weird thing for some people to get behind anyway. But they're from Denmark or Sweden or something. English is not the dude's first language.
Obviously not.
Yeah, so his pronunciations are a little bit silly here or there.
His word choices are wild. It's like that doesn't mean anything at all.
But it's fun.
Yeah. For you.
All right, so track 5. This one is for you. I honestly don't have a lot of notes on this because I couldn't get past that. You gotta get over yourself a little to see the grass is green. Oh, come on,
that's catchy.
Oh no, it's catchy. But that's the thing, it caught me to the point to where I had trouble with the rest of the song. Like, I know I listened to that song multiple times, And I honestly don't remember a whole lot from this song because that line sticks out to me so much. We went going back to earlier. We said this album is earwormy. Hell yeah, it is, because that line will get stuck in anybody's head.
So talking about the vocalist and sort of some of his melodies and choices that he makes, I love the way he sings the first verse where he goes up at the end of each line. I really like sort of the dynamics of that. You're so worthwhile. Like on every single line.
So good.
And even when it tears you apart, you do your best not to show it.
But then on the second verse, it doesn't do that at all. And he almost sings like in falsetto the entire time, which is, again, just like these little choices that keep it interesting. If this could be a very straightforward pop rock kind of song, you know, again, like I mentioned, something corporate because you got the big piano keys in there, but they do these little things that keep it interesting. And I like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think his vocal delivery on a lot of it is just worth listening to alone, in my opinion, even if you don't like the songs. But you got to get over yourself to see the grass is like, oh man, as an adult, that's so cheesy. When I was like 14, I was like, this is really cool. But if I wrote that, I would cringe looking back on it, you know? So, but it's so catchy. So, I mean, I can't fault it.
And that's kind of like what I was saying earlier, that I think you and I hearing this when we were late teen, early 20s is kind of the sweet spot. Like if you walk into this as a 35, 40-year-old man,
like me,
this might not resonate quite as, I'm looking at you, Danger. If you say you don't get it, that's because you're not, you weren't cool enough to listen to this when you were a kid.
I was cool enough for this. I was probably cooler than this album. No.
Oh, you're cooler than this.
I was
okay.
cooler than it, yeah. Maybe I need to get over myself a little. No, but it was a good song. But the thing about this song is I don't feel like this was the best track on the album by any means. I definitely don't feel like this is a filler track or it should be cut. I feel like it should be here. But that line just got stuck in my head and just kind of like while the song was still going, I was going over that line in my head. Yeah. I thought it was good. I enjoyed all the parts of it, but I can't tell you a lot about the song because that's what I remember from the song.
I could sing it back to the whole thing to you, instruments and everything. I think what stands out, I love like the guitar lead after the like. It's like kind of.
There's a real short little guitar solo around 3:01 that's really nice. And in the background of the verses, he's doing some little like real simple little bendy lines or whatever, but it just adds to the, vibe of the song.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the Almost or like the Starting Line, just like some of those more like chill songs that they would write. But it goes into like that dance beat at 220. On the hats and put on your dancing shoes. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of cool elements to this song. I don't think that this is a maturely like crafted song, but I think that there's a lot of elements into it that make it worthwhile to me.
Yeah.
All right, so track 6, I-540.
I drove all night. The darkness could not keep me all alone.
So before we jump into this one, I thought it was an odd choice to name your song after a highway.
That doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah, right.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. I did Google I-540 and I saw that it was there at one time. So
I'm assuming somewhere in Arkansas.
I guess so. But okay. So this is actually kind of what I was getting at the beginning, is that this is the first slowdown, track 6, and we slow it down. And so they kind of punched us out the gate with those first couple tracks. And I feel like the one before this, track 5, was kind of not a slowdown, but it was, like it kind of pulled the pace back a little bit. But it
introduced the piano,
right?
Which I thought was smart. Like they did track 5 where it's like, okay, here's a slightly less rock but still upbeat song utilizing the piano. And now, like you said, we're going to go to the ballad with the piano as the lead instrument.
Right. I mean, this is an emo ballad. So, TJ, you said you had trouble kind of pinpointing what emo is. Here
it's yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to miss that one.
Oh yeah. But it's nice to geographically place these fellas in Arkansas with their line, "Keep moving forward till I've gone too far, but we've left our hearts back in Arkansas."
Keep moving forward till we go too far, but we left our hearts way back in Arkansas.
Geographically, it's nice to place where they are, or were in 2007.
So this kind of a song is not really like the kind of stuff that I would go out of my way to listen to.
No.
And my wife always kind of like picks on me whenever we hear these kind of songs, like we're in the car listening to music and something like this comes on, because it's always like, oh no, he's going to feel a feeling, you know, because it's like emotional. But because of that, every time I hear this song, I think of my wife and I think of us driving in the car, especially, you know, when a lot of the lyrics are talking about, you know, we were just kids. And, you know, it reminds me of when we were dating and we weren't married yet and we didn't have our own kids and we were just young and in love and happy. And, you know, so even though musically this isn't really something that I would typically gravitate towards, I do really like the lyrics and very sentimental on this one for me.
That's cool. That's cool that you have that. Whenever you hear this song, you think of your wife, regardless of how you feel about the song. Like it's still an attached memory. But for me, this song, I'm kind of in the same boat where it's like, this is not for like, this is the hit skip, go on to the next one. When's the rock song going to start? But in defense of this song, I think this is a really good example of how to build up a song, like the crescendos and everything that build up in. I think it's, I have in my notes, 253 when he does that really high note and the strings are all crescendoing at the same time, but it doesn't, like, it just keeps building until it's over. And I think it's so well done. If you take the time to listen to the first 2 minutes to get to that point, I think it's worth a listen for sure. There's just like a lot of, just little ear candy things I think that are really cool. It feels like a composition for an indie movie in 2007, you know, like Dan in Real Life or like Little Miss Sunshine or something like that.
This sounds like it could be on the Garden State soundtrack.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
and I was just going to say, Danger and I are fans of Sleep Token, so we can sit through 2, 3, 7 minutes of build up if we have to, if the payoff is good. And I do like that in this one, you've got like the strings and you've got the bells and you've got like all these interesting instruments there. Do you know who's playing the strings and the bells, TJ?
Oh, I know they're real.
Yes, that part is cool.
I don't know.
God, you're really dropping the ball here, man.
Sorry. Yeah.
Like you set our expectations higher with your knowledge and what. So,
well, you like from OC Supertones. I mean, I called him and talked to him. He told me he played horns on here.
Yeah, guys, I know everyone from No, so I
son of a bitch was in the wedding. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
when he was 14.
Yeah, it was wild. I was doing things at a really young age. God,
as a child prodigy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish. Well, that's like you ever listen to PAX 217?
Just a second to catch my breath. But I never see death. No need for the birds.
Oh, that was like my first concert I ever went to. Was PAX 217.
I saw them at some point as well. So.
God, same. I love 311.
That's
of course,
crazy.
I love PAX.
I actually have a CD of theirs upstairs. So.
They I think when they got
awesome.
signed, their drummer was like 13. Something like outrageous. Wow. He was like because I know y'all's drummer was super young when y'all first got signed.
Yeah, Parker was 14.
14? Yeah, he was right around the same age. That's wild.
That's crazy. Yeah, the drummer for Amberlin, Nate Young, I believe his name is. I think he was 13 or 14 because I remember listening to an interview with Stephen Christian talking about like the band would like go over to his parents' house and be like, can we take Nate out on tour? Like, are we allowed to take your son? We're adults, but like, can we just like abduct your child for a month?
Why is it always the
it's
drummer?
Crazy. I don't know. I think you just have like the natural talent at that age, and it's just I don't know what that is, but it is a weird thing that it's always the drummer.
Wait, okay, because playing like a guitar or a bass, like a real instrument, requires like discipline. But
A
if
real
you're playing
instrument?
drums, you're just banging on everything. Like a hyper ass 13-year-old, put 2 sticks in his hand and let him go. And never mind, I get it now. It makes sense.
But the thing is, like, most of those kids suck. So, I mean,
That's
we all went
true.
to youth group, right? Like, there was a drum set around, and every
Oh,
like
God.
13-year-old boy wanted to slam the sticks against it. So, we've heard plenty of bad drummers.
My youth pastor actually hid the sticks, and then we would find other things to hit on the drums because
Oh, yeah.
we didn't know any better. And so he just started slowly just like hiding the toms. And it's like, that's solution, I
Well,
guess.
my wife and I were youth leaders for a church for about 7 years, and
Oh, wow.
and I was very thankful when we got an electric kit because they still wanted to go up there and bang on it, but wasn't nearly as obnoxious.
No.
Yeah, you just hear little thuds. It's not
Yeah,
the crashes and splashes and chinas.
So the fella doing violin on this song is Chris Carmichael. I do have his name down.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I have the band
don't know-
members.
no-
I don't know who Chris Carmichael is, but he's the violin player. So
Good.
Yeah, I know that they tracked all the auxiliary and all that stuff. They did they got like all the horns, and then they actually took a lot of the horns and sample or like put them through pedals and stuff to make the synth sounds. So a lot of like the weird synth stuff that you hear isn't synth, it's just horns that have been manipulated, which I think gives this record like a really unique kind of flavor to it, because everything is authentic and genuine to this record. It's not pulling samples from Splice or what everyone does now using like the same plugins on everything. It's a very specific sound to this record.
that's awesome. I had no idea that it was the horns, put through things like that.
Yeah.
I've done it where I've put, different instruments through, but I've never even thought about doing horns through pedals or anything. And that's just cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
The
We've been doing,
engineering nerd in me is getting very excited about that.
Oh, yeah, I love all that stuff. We've been writing some new stuff, and Dawson's been putting like the Gojira like guitar amp sim over his vocals, and we're like really experimenting with a lot of that stuff. It's
Wow.
been so much fun because we're just like, there's no rules. We have all these plugins. Everyone's using them the same way, and we don't want to sound like everyone's sounding. So we're going to use this in a completely. Sorry, I went on my own thing, but yeah,
That's fine. No,
fine.
by all means, please tell us, because that's
cool.
that's just cool.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
The Ongoing Concepts new album's going to have Gojira vocals or
yeah.
guitar vocals. You'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
That.
So, doing the Gojira vocals is cool, but please don't play a concert on the side of a castle in France like Gojira did during the Olympics.
No,
So-
please do. That's cool as shit.
All right. So let's move on to talk about track 7. It's time to rock. Okay.
It's about okay. 'Cause they bring 'em in on stretchers, and when they leave, they're walking out. That's what our job's about. Okay. Ha ha.
Yeah.
Not only do these boys rock, but they're polite.
Yeah. I like that it's a question because they're asking permission, right? So, okay. This song, I love that intro on this song.
Yeah. We drive all day.
Just, it's a damn good intro.
Yeah, that's gnarly.
And then I have very few notes on this, but I feel like the notes actually sum up what this song is really well. This song is just chunky guitar riffs, and I put down beefcake bass lines because that's how I felt like it. That's the best descriptor for it I could come up with. And the vocals on this song, I think my favorite vocals on this album are on this song because they switch between like a gravel and a yell and then somehow also melodic and clean. I don't know. It's just, I loved it.
This, like I said, this one definitely gave me big, like, suck out the poison era, He Is Legend, or like I said, Letter Kills, like that kind of dirty Southern with sort of the more like, pop punk and emo influences. And again, talking about the lyrics, as a young Christian looking for something that sounds cool and not cheesy, I always thought that line about bring them in on stretchers, and when they leave, they're walking out. That's what our God's about.
'Cause they bring 'em in on stretchers, and when they leave, they're walking out. That's what our God's about.
I don't know, like that. I think that's cool. Like, I think that's like a badass way to talk about it, without being too ham-fisted and not being too cheesy. I just made a ham and cheese sandwich there. I didn't mean to, but
Yeah, I think for me, this song, listening to it the first time, this record all the way through as a teenager, this was the song that I was like, oh, they can put that on the rest of this album? Like, you can do that? You can just like this doesn't feel like it really fits entirely with the rest of the record. You have those southern elements that come in a little bit before with the guitarist and stuff, but they fully just like lean in and they're like, oh, Maylene is a band? Well, we could do that. We'll just write a Maylene song and have a vocalist that sounds, in my opinion, a lot better. And they're just having fun. Like the woos. I showed the guys in my band this song, like the first song, and we wrote one of our songs, Soul, like kind of just around this song, because we're like, we want to write that song. So we just wrote our version of it on our own record. And it's just, yeah, I think this is the best song on the record for sure.
So I've listened to Soul. I didn't realize that you guys did that, so that's really cool. But what you don't do on Soul is what.
I knew you were going to do this. Yeah. I knew you were going to bitch about this. God, I knew this was coming.
And you're gonna just listen. All right, just listen. Song is 3 minutes 30 seconds. Good length of a song. But you know what would have been better? If they had let the song be 3 minutes and 20 seconds like it does. It's got a false ending at 3:20. And then it comes back. With a tambourine.
I knew you were going to bitch because there's a false ending and a tambo, and I was like, you're going to miss the forest for the trees because this song rules, and you're going to get hung up on that crap at the end.
No, like this, I was all in on this song until that last part happened, and nothing Monster will tell you, TJ, nothing will make me hate a song faster than a false ending. Of course, I can't hate it the first time I listen to it, but it's like the second time, I'm like, you sons of bitches, I know what you're about to do here. And then they come back with the two things. So weird. Yeah, the two things that I hate. No, I hate a false ending and I hate a tambourine. Unless it's live, because then you can't hear it.
But you realize that there's tambourine all over this whole record.
I heard it more. I heard it more here than
every song has tambourine on it.
I heard it more here than. It's like they came back for a tambourine solo, and just.
I mean, I will give it to you. It is a little bit louder in the mix, but personally, that gave me like Emery vibes from like the first Emery record. Just like not giving you the ending that you're expecting. I love that personally because it just catches you off guard, and then after you've heard it, you're like, "Oh, this is like the cool part. It's gonna do dun 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 dun." Dun. I think it's awesome. I don't understand your opinion at all.
I understand it. I just don't respect it.
I love tambourine too, and I feel like whenever I'm writing songs, and I'm like, man, this is missing some energy. We add tambourine to it, and it picks it up. Do you listen to the Almost at all, or like anything that Aaron Sprinkle has ever produced?
Yeah, I've listened to the Almost quite a few times. I mean, quite a bit. But
man, that's all tambourine.
Oh yeah,
no, and that's funny because Dawson will point out, he's like the fucking freaking tambourine. Like there's tambourine. Oh yep, it's Aaron Sprinkle. Like you can hear it. It's that's the tambourine there.
No, so I've listened to the Almost a lot, and I think that's where I'm just gonna say the hatred of tambourine comes from because after I haven't listened to the Almost in a long time. And it's like after I stopped listening to the Almost, it's like then I just hear tambourine on a different, I don't know, hatred level than I used to. And it just, I don't know, a false ending and a tambourine solo will make my blood boil.
Oh man. But there's an actual guitar solo in this song too. And I know that you guys have like some sort of like hatred towards people putting vocals over guitar solos.
Not some kind of.
That wasn't the case.
No,
That wasn't the case in this, right? Like you hear all of it, I think.
yeah, and my only complaint as a guitar player is I wish the solo was just cranked up a little bit. Like I feel like it's sort of pulled, like it's a little too laid back for me, like because it is a bendy rock and roll solo. I feel like it should kind of jump out at you a little more than it does.
I'll agree with you on that for sure.
I mean, minor complaint on an otherwise stellar song.
Yeah,
I just love when the bass comes in after that guitar solo with and then it just gets heavy and then the screaming starts. Yeah, I love that. Because at the time when I was listening to this, bands like 1,000 Foot Crutch were like Pillar, Day of Fire, like all those like old Christian bands from back in the day. That's what I was listening to, and I was starting to get into bands like Emery and Under Oath, and more of like the emo metalcore stuff. And then this song was like perfectly in the middle of all of that, where it's like, oh, it has the heavier stuff. It's also really poppy and catchy, but it's not like dad rock. So I think that's why I really enjoyed it.
Quick side note, Day of Fire. Those were kind of I was in a Christian band called Source of Prosperity for a few years, and we had a little bit of a following in like the North Carolina area. So a lot of times when like some of the bigger national like Christian acts would be coming through, a lot of times we were lucky enough to, share the stage with them. So we did shows with like Disciple and Family Force 5 and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And Day of Fire, we actually did a couple shows with them. And before Day of Fire, Josh Brown, the singer, was in a band called Full Devil Jacket, which as a big nu metal guy, I really liked Full Devil Jacket. So when I met him, I actually handed him a Full Devil Jacket CD booklet and was like, will you sign this for me? And he's like, oh yeah, man. He's a weird guy, but I mean, he was nice. And it was cool because he signed it, but then he put the date on it. I think it might have been 2007 or 2008, something like that. And so it was just cool to like the Full Devil Jacket album cover and his name, like, but the date is now and not back then. So, okay, sorry, I just had to throw that out there.
That's crazy that you even know who Day of Fire is.
Oh yeah. We did
like in my world, like most people don't know like or weren't raised with a lot of the music that I was. So it's always fascinating when people are like, oh yeah, you know who Disciple is? Like, yeah, I guess Disciple's not a good example because they're a pretty large band, but
well, off and on ever since the early 2000s up until just like a couple years ago, I've been playing in Christian rock and metal bands. So like just a couple years ago, played that Kingdom Come festival out in Indiana and played with like Convictions and Grave Robber and Disciple and a bunch of other bands like were there. So I'm pretty familiar with most of these bands.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
Because like Day of Fire, I saw them with my dad when they came to Spokane with Pillar. And like I met the singer of Day of Fire and I was just so scared. He has like the face tattoos and stuff. It's like, oh, he writes God music? How can he do that? Yeah.
It's funny you keep throwing out Pillar because their guitar player Noah is actually from our neck of the woods. I believe he's actually from Greensboro, North Carolina. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, and I've got a few connections to Pillar outside of just Noah, but
oh, interesting.
We actually, I was in a really bad rap metal band before my really bad emo screamo band, and so
they're all really bad. That's the consistency.
Yeah, consistently. There's a consistency there. It doesn't matter what genre.
So the consistency is they're bad, and you're also in them. What does that say?
No, it's me. It's got to be me.
Denominator.
But one of my favorite things with Pillar is this rap metal band I was in. there was a little like mini festival somewhere. I think it might have even been Virginia, but Pillar was the headliner and there was a couple other bands. And for whatever reason, Pillar dropped off. So instead of like trying to do something better, they just stuck my band at the beginning and then kept the rest of the bands the way they were. So we went around telling everybody, was like, yeah, we had to step in for Pillar. You know, they couldn't make it, so we had to do it. It's like, God, we were stupid.
All right, so track 8, Rebound.
Top down, pick it up. Not giving up, that's true love. Into heart of gold, your angel falling into.
I don't know how to rebound from all that, but
no,
yeah,
thank you
here we
for
are.
moving us on. Okay, so talking about the emo thing, like for me, this is the kind of song, and you know, TJ, feel free to tell me this is your favorite song and I'm way off. But for me, this one's a little bit more just kind of a straightforward pop punk emo song. I like the keys here or there. And I do, again, like it does that cool thing where the verses are kind of fast and the chorus cuts to halftime. I like that. You got another one of those kind of day to remember style happy breakdowns around let's see, I think it's about 157.
We thought we were close to reaching the prize. We're farther than we could have ever.
Yep.
But overall, this one, not filler, but this one never really like sticks with me.
Interesting. Because I think I really like the guitar and the bass on the verses and stuff. And like the double kick on the chord. Like there's aspects to the song that I really like. And then that breakdown, I think the breakdown at 157, 158 works a lot better than the one on whatever song we were talking about before. I think it just fits in the song better. I think it just sounds better overall. But
I do think
yeah,
they made it flow better in and out of it. Whereas a lot of times the breakdowns are just kind of like it's like a lot of bands feel like they just have to have a breakdown section of the song and it just kind of gets stuck in. Whereas I feel like this one was really well crafted from beginning to end. Nothing felt out of place within it, except for the amount of times he says "pick" in this one. I wasn't a big fan of that. But and then also I wasn't a huge fan of what I just kept calling the sleepy callback in the verse pre-chorus, you know, part of things. Like it just I didn't like that. It's almost like if they just gave us one pick, if they picked their picks, and I think that would have been better. But then also if they didn't do that, I actually would have really liked this one better.
Yeah, because there's like the vocal callback that he's doing, like the longer line, and then I think it works for the song. Mainly when that part's happening, though, I'm just focused on because I think the second verse has like, or maybe both the verses do have all the strings and stuff going on too, and I just love whatever harmonies that the strings are doing during those sections. So yeah, and then the pick, it's a lot.
Yeah,
This is one of those songs where there are a lot of neat pieces and there's a lot of cool stuff going on, but then the like meat and potatoes, the actual like verse, chorus, bridge, it's not a standout. They're doing a lot of cool things within the song, but the song itself is, I mean, a weak song off of this album is still better than a lot of best songs on other albums. So it's not to say it's bad. It's just, I don't think it's quite as good as some of the stuff around it.
right. Now there is something that happens in this song that doesn't happen anywhere else on the album, and I would like to know how they do it live. But what I just was calling the battery rundown at 220. Yeah, it's just this like it caught me off guard the first time. Yeah, it's like it's a shutdown, and it's a cool part. I think it was a neat thing to throw in, but I feel like maybe they knew they needed to throw something like that in to kind of, you know, bring the attention back in. Because while I enjoyed this one, it didn't jump out to me, and I think it's funny that they named a song that we're all kind of having this opinion about called "Rebound." You know, it definitely didn't put it on that. So.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's the strongest song on the record by any means. I enjoyed like the lyrics of the song and like the phrasing of a lot of it. I do like how like the vocals, how they're kind of calling back and forth. It's just adding a different texture to the record that's not like super prevalent. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
All right, so let's move on to track 9, Schizophrenia.
Too late for coming clean. I let you in, but I won't let you out. And I bottled up all of my regrets, and I threw them into the sea.
This is one that I almost like forget about at first, and then like the intro kicks in and I'm like, oh yeah, I like this one too. Like I like the little piano intro, and then you got that snare roll and the strings start to kick in. And then, you know, I'm a sucker for a nice loud pick slide too that goes into a pretty solid riff. And this is another one, like, you know, we keep talking about where the first verse and the second verse are very different from one another, but it still keeps a lot of the same energy, because I like the first verse and I like the clapping, like all that's pretty cool.
'Cause I am the one that they warn me about.
But the second verse, the guitar has this almost like, it's not reggae because the beat's not there, but it sort of the guitar pattern flirts with it a little bit. And so I kind of like the dynamics there.
Yeah, I think this set, like the eerie vibe, like the opening with the strings and the snare roll, like you said, like all of that guitar slide sounds so good. Like at the opening, I don't know. I think they used the like Les Paul single coil on this record, and it just sounds just so hot. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like it's almost peaking.
Right. It's almost, but it's just not quite there.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't know. There's so much of that on this record, like those just weird guitar sounds. It's not even like they're notes or anything. It's just weird kind of noises that I love. And it harkens back to, like, for me, like you listen to the Chariot and like half of it's just noise. And I really love that kind of stuff. So yeah, like the claps and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. This song works for me really well. I love the lyrics of this song. I think the opening, when he's like, I want it all and I want nothing all at the same time.
I want it all and I want nothing, and all at the same time.
And then the second verse, he does the same thing where he says, I can't remember what he says, but he says the same line
booklet,
twice
look it
the
up.
same way.
Well, whatever he said, you can hear
It's
it right here.
falling apart.
And I bottled up all of my regrets, and I threw them into the sea.
There you go.
Yes, there you go.
Okay, so let me ask, and TJ, you would know better than we would. This is the song where specifically the lead, is it the same guy singing lead on this one, or is it one of the other guys singing lead?
I had the same question.
There's like another guy that's singing the back vocals. I think he does the vocals that are on one of the slower songs too.
Okay, because some of his pronunciations and his tone were reminding me a little bit of Chris Brown, not world-renowned face puncher Chris Brown, but Chris Brown, the lead singer from Trapped. He had a little bit of that same kind of clean vocal.
Are they both named Chris Brown?
Yeah. How weird is that?
Insane.
That's, I mean, it's one thing to like share a name with a person of, you know, celebrity status, but not
that one.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you know, I met a guy named Michael Jackson a couple months ago, and it's like he was, yeah. But then when something like, you know, the face punching comes out, it's like, yeah, that's not so great. But then to also be in the music industry, it's.
Quick side note, 2022, I actually opened for Trapped and got to meet Chris Brown, and he's a lot nicer in person than he is on social media. Or maybe I just didn't talk to him long enough.
No, probably not. So yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. Like, I like this one. I do like the distorted vocal and the clapping parts. Like, those were always just kind of like fun little things. I forgot they were there and they happened. I'd be like, oh, fun, cool.
Speaking of fun, so at 2:20, there's this fun little bass part that I really like. It's just a short little run.
just let me.
But then that whole section from like 220 to about 250, where it's kind of dissonant and it's got some kind of weird melodies going on. I think that part's real fun.
Just let me tell you, pretty baby, the only thing holding me back.
Yeah, because it has like the bells and everything, and the strings
Yeah.
come in, and then that's a really cool part. I think the way he enunciates words, I think, is really interesting. Because you mentioned that you might have thought it was a different vocalist,
Yeah.
but the way he does like the and that feels, it's like he almost goes into that Patrick Stump kind of like really
Yeah.
like eking that note out in an interesting way. Those are like the moments on this song that really stand out to me. Is just like the vocal delivery. Because what does he say? It's never too late when he never too late for coming clean.
Now it's never too late for coming clean.
Like
Mhm.
I love that. It's just such a good line.
All right, so track 10, The Last Stand, Wake the Regiment 2.
40 years, and I'm a long, long way from home. Sending my love through a telephone. Right now my life is this gun, and I'll use it to get back to my son. Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of a strange thing to throw on here, and I couldn't find Wake the Regiment 1. Do they have one somewhere?
Do not
I don't know.
Okay. I
Maybe because they were in a band like called Take It Back, I think. Is like all the a lot of the members from the wedding. So maybe Take It Back had a song that was called the first part of this.
No, they do. They do have a song on their first album called Wake the Regiment.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
That took one quick search on Spotify. What the hell?
Yeah, I didn't look that hard. I just gonna say I didn't look that hard. I pretty much took a look at one thing and said I can't find it.
I mean, I don't know what it sounds like. I'm not going to listen to it, but I know it exists.
So actually, knowing that there's a sequel, so we did you guys' album again, which was pretty much all sequel songs. And so I just was wondering, I know you haven't listened to the first one, but if I had listened to again before I heard the other album, I would have liked that more than I, liked, like Places was the other one we did. So what you throwed your hands up, Monster.
Okay. No, listen, I've got a great idea for you guys. Okay, TJ, here's what you do. You make another album that is like the third part of all those songs. So you can be like Saloon again, and again. No? Okay. All right. You know
we
what?
actually discussed doing a deluxe album that was going to be called Again.
Yes.
And we were just going to do like a few different reimagined versions of the songs. It never came to fruition, obviously, but that was a stupid idea that we threw around for a bit. But like we kind of are annoyed with the Again thing at this point. Like we didn't realize how annoying it was going to be after like a day of talking about it. So we're done.
If you think it's annoying,
Never
just listen
again.
to our episode on it, because I was going out of my way.
Oh yeah, like I had trouble. I actually had to edit out a good bit of me laughing because like he just got me tickled with the first track on the album. And it's like I had trouble getting it out. So yeah.
So
I mean,
the last
And then when you say it,
stand,
and then you realize that you're saying it, and then it just makes it so much.
and then
worse.
you realize you're saying it again. So the last stand, I like this one because it's very jaunty. It has this like
you like using that
rhythm to
descriptor.
it. Yeah, it has this rhythm to it that some of the other songs don't have. And this one again is a little more straightforward, but I do like the lyrics. I think the lyrics are kind of telling a cool story.
So I like everything about the song except the chorus. But I think outside of the choruses, it's just a good, solid song. But it also doesn't really give me a whole lot different from the rest of the album.
Yeah.
You guys are looking at it through 17 years of liking this. I'm looking at this through an almost 40-year-old man's eyes or ears, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I like this one, except the choruses, but I didn't really feel like.
What
it was
about the
doing a whole-
courses? Like, how it didn't work for you?
It just was. I didn't feel like the chorus fit with the rest of the song, with any of them. I feel like they got better towards the end.
Well, I mean,
actually.
the transitions are pretty drastic in between the choruses. Like they fully do they drop out and do the hey, 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 hey.
Get back to my son, yeah.
It doesn't nothing really flows in. They kind of they do what we do a lot, where it's just pop and then start something else. I hope it works.
I don't mind the chorus, but I do agree that, like, for as I said jaunty, but the lyrics are painting kind of a little more of a despairing story. But then the chorus, the end of it has that yeah. Like it that sounds a little bit too poppy for the vibe of the verses, in my opinion. I don't think it necessarily clashes extreme, but I do see what you're saying, that it's not a perfect fit.
So actually, I think I put the note that I wanted to say about the choruses on the next song by accident. I really feel like the chorus and the rest of the song were two different songs that they wanted, like they really liked what they had for both, and they wanted to put them together into one song, and it just felt disjointed to me, and that's why I didn't like the choruses, because it just felt like they didn't belong there. Yeah,
I can see that. I think the kind of flippant lyrics of yeah, like, and then you have him saying like, I'm pretty sure I've already been to hell, and like there's like so much like lyrical depth to it, and then it feels like it's just tossed away with like the emo, like, oh, we're just a pop punk band, like we don't know what else to say. So yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't like ruin the song for me, but it doesn't enhance it.
Yeah, I don't think it ruined it. Like I said, it's just a good, solid song, but the choruses didn't really do anything for me on this one. And I think you were right on something that, like there's a lyrical weight to the rest of the song that's not there in the choruses, and it's almost like the choruses rob the weight of the song. And
you're having this like, this is the last stand on, like, and then yeah, like, okay. Well, and I think this song is pretty interchangeable with songs like I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. Like they're basically like the same song. It's just later on in the record. So I know what you're saying, where it's like, it's a song.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move on and talk about track 11, Misery Loves Company.
Now, this one, you do not say any of the things you just said, because this song is awesome. That guitar lick at the beginning of the song is so good. You brought up Thrice earlier, and I hadn't really thought about them, but that little lick has a little bit of a Thrice flavor to it. Like as soon as this song starts, I'm always like, oh yeah, because something I was telling the wife, we had listened to this album so many times, like in the car, driving around, whatever. And I remember like the first 7 or 8 songs clear as a bell. But when it gets into this back half, these last like 4 or 5, I was like, yeah, I'm remembering some things, but not nearly as like vividly as the first half. So when this intro started, I was like, oh yeah, this song, this is a cool one. I like this one a lot.
I love this one beginning to end. I think this is probably the best song on this album. No notes on this one. Honestly, I actually wrote down no notes. I love the vocals here. I love every part of this song.
Yeah, this song, like, I love like I don't know what it's called. It sounds like a flanger or something, but it's like the Waka Waka guitar, like when he's doing like the singing bits. But like the lead line, do you guys know the band Amberlin?
Yeah, actually, we saw Amberlin.
Sorry, wow, Ivory Line. Do you know the band Ivory Line?
Ivory Line, no.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they were like a tooth and nail band that put out a couple records, but it just fits that vibe very much. That's very much what it reminds me of. But yeah, the soaring vocals on this song, you can't do any better than this. I would agree with you that this is one of the strongest, if not the strongest. It has the great breakdown in there too.
Yes.
Like 2:13 when it starts to get heavy.
I know there's somewhere you can turn this around. Oh!
And it just fits. It doesn't feel forced. Like everything in this song, I think, flows super.
Yeah, that
super
whole
well.
section from like 217 to 239, where it's like it's a breakdown. Like it doesn't have that happy poppy easy core vibe to it. It's just heavy, and even the vocals are a little bit more like there. I mean, there is screaming, but it's kind of this like extra like unhinged kind of screaming, not just like metal screaming.
Don't give up on me yet, I'm not yet in the ground.
Yeah, because he does the really aggressive in there too.
Yeah.
And then it like, because it gets like really beautiful after that too, which I love.
That brings
like,
in the strings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The demon on my shoulder says you pay for this.
It doesn't just stay that way, and I think that it encapsulates this record super well, where it's almost like Say Your Prayers, where you get a little bit of everything in this song, and it's just pristine.
I feel like this was placed here for a reason, because we've kind of gotten, I feel like we kind of went into a bit of a slump, and then it's like we came out with this one, and it almost like fell in our laps in the happiest way possible. I can tell you that when I was sitting in my room listening to this album through headphones, this song came on and I just kind of stopped and just enjoyed the moment, or enjoyed the 3 minutes 42 moment. 2 seconds moment. I don't know. I was trying to put that together. It just didn't work. But,
but yeah, I think you're right. I think that little stretch of like 8, 9, and 10 is, again, not bad. It's just sort of the weaker part of the album for me.
Right. I'll agree.
Yeah, I personally, when I hear this song, and I'm not religious or Christian or anything, but this is a worship song, like a straight up worship song to me. I don't hear anything but him basically just talking to God. And I love this song, man. But it's just something that I've always noticed with this song, is it feels like if you just put, some cheesy chords to it with an acoustic guitar, like you could sing this and it would sound like you're calling out to God. So I think it's interesting.
And again, like, I think that's so cool to have like a Christian band that can be that like upfront and wear the meaning on their sleeve. Like, so many Christian bands have to like decorate it with flowery language because I don't want to say they're scared, but they don't want to be too upfront about it or like throw it in your face too hard. And these guys somehow manage to be very blunt and upfront without coming across as like beating you over the head with it. And like you said, even if you don't necessarily like subscribe to what they're singing about, you can feel the conviction in his voice and still get a lot out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when he says, I feel sick, or demon on his shoulder says you will pay for, like, there's so many like moments in the song that really stand out lyrically to me. And I love biblical and like lyrical imagery and everything like that. It just paints like a really interesting picture, and I think like surrounded by the composition of the instruments, it just works so well. And I think this is probably his best vocal performance for me personally, is on this song.
It's a good
would
one.
Probably agree with you. So, all right, so track 12, Southside.
Follow me back down to the south side. Follow me back down to the south side. Mom and Dad will be just fine. So follow me.
So I guess this is where the wedding decided to try to do an All American Reject song, because
that's what you got.
Yeah, that's what I got from it. This just felt like they were going for like a radio friendly pop punk song.
At first, yes, I agree. I think it starts that way.
At third too. Yeah.
Yeah, like it starts that way. And actually, I kind of thought that the clean guitar tone mixed in the verses almost gave it sort of like a little bit of a 90s thing.
You got so much life to live and so much hurt to give.
They haven't really done a lot of that yet, and it's always cool to hear late in the record things that are, trying new things. I agree the chorus is a little bit kind of straightforward pop punk kind of vibes, but but then like that back half of the song, like when the bridge starts and it gets a little bit more mid tempo and there's some grooves and the vocals get a little bit meaner. I like this one a lot too.
So I feel like this is that radio friendly pop punk song I was talking about up till 202. So yeah, it's at that point you're talking about. After that, I thought this was a great song.
And that 202 section, you mentioned Emery. I like Emery, but I'm not a big fan of bands that play pretty music and then scream on top of it. Like that was always like bands like Under Oath and stuff. Like I didn't get it. Like I know it was a huge thing. And a lot of bands did it and a lot of people loved it. But for me, it always kind of felt a little wonky. I feel like they do a good job here of it's big and it's loud, but it's still melodic. And the screaming is like the right kind of screaming that it doesn't overpower anything.
Yeah. I think like the opening in this song reminds me of the band Run Kid Run. Do you guys remember that band?
Don't know that one.
Oh, that I think they were called like Sidewalk Slam or something initially, and then it was Run Kid Run. Anyways, it reminds me of just like super cheesy like Christian pop from the early 2000s. And then like 2 minutes comes in and it's a completely different song to me. Yeah. Like some of the notes he hits in this song are insane when he's really getting up there. I don't know how he hits those notes, but so good. And like some of the drum fills in this song are really interesting. The gang vocals are back in this song too. Like, I love this. I'm a sucker. I don't know if you've noticed. I love gang vocals. If you are chanting something at me, I love it. I don't know why. But
and you're not religious, boy, you're missing out. So not to get like super sappy, but there's also kind of an emotional thing here for me on this one. The line in the chorus where he says, "Mom and Dad will be just fine." I'm not exactly sure the story behind the lyrics of this song, but when I was playing in a lot of these bands when I was younger in the early 2000s, we practiced at my mom and dad's house. And my dad's
they have the patience of just wonderful patience.
Yes. And my dad is an incredible musician. He's a bass player. He's played with Percy Sledge. He's played with the Coasters. He's played with a lot of like, those kind of things. And so he was always real supportive, and so was my mom. And there's just something about that line about, mom and dad will be just fine. Like it really kind of took me back to those days of being a kid with my friends and mom and dad being one room over. We're loud as hell, screaming, doing whatever we're doing. And they're just like chilling, watching Wheel of Fortune or something, and just totally like, it's fine. Because if we're in there jamming and playing and being silly, we're not out drinking. We're not out doing something stupid and getting in trouble. We're just, so that part was kind of, I like that. Made me feel good.
Yeah. It gives me like, I don't know. This whole album has the Southern kind of vibe to it. This has like good old Americana, like, I don't know. There's just something about that. This song specifically that's just so American to me. And it might be like the lyrics as well. It just kind of feels like almost a country song that just wasn't a country song in a sense. Just the lyrical content, mom and dad will be just fine. Follow me down to the south side. Like you put a little twang on that and it changes the vibe completely. But yeah, that's interesting. This song, it's not one of my favorites, but I think it's a pretty decent way to end the record too.
So you say it sounds American, maybe all American, maybe rejected?
All the rejected Americans, yeah.
All right, track 13.
As soon as you started that, I knew where you were going.
Track 13, Revelation.
The test of time and proved that we will make it out all right. Today is when faith.
Go on.
I was just going to say, TJ, you just said something about ending the record. Now,
we're getting towards the end of the record.
Okay. because like I said, I felt like I was more familiar with the first half of the album than the back half. And as I was looking at it, I was like, 15 tracks. Like, I don't remember it being that long. And we'll get to the very last song here, in a couple minutes. But I do remember this one because, it almost feels like I-540 Part 2. It's kind of the continuation, because I feel like the first one is Young Love, and then this one is like, pardon the pun, the wedding song. Like, this is the song you play at the wedding for the couple from I-540.
Right. That met on I-540. I don't know.
Apparently.
So I think it was, like I said before, it's a good idea to throw the slow ones in where they do on this album. And I think they placed this one really well, because we just kind of, like, we had this, rise up to All American Rejects. And then it's like we, have this break before it goes on. I mean, it's like when you've been watching the opener that you really enjoy, and then like their set's done, and so you get a minute to rest before you enter the next phase of things. And I liked it. I didn't love it. I liked it.
Yeah, for me, this is another one where it's if I have the chance, I'll just skip it, because piano ballads just don't really do it for me. I think it's a good song. I think it, as far as like the making the record be cohesive, like ending with the last song going into this, works super, super well. But I could take it or leave it. And this is one of the Spotify ones where the lyrics are very wrong.
Yeah.
Very wrong.
Oh, wow.
I didn't take note of where they were wrong, but I do remember this one was not on. So yeah, nothing really stood out to me about this one except the string section. The string section was fantastic on this one. But
yeah, and I honestly feel like this was written to be played at a wedding, because in I-540 it builds and you have that big section with the bells and the strings and stuff.
That's when the bride comes in.
Well, but I think they purposely avoid doing that on this one, so it stays low enough that you can play it during a ceremony and not like get too big.
Yeah, maybe this was written for that purpose. I don't know. All right, let's kind of round the album out with track 14, Fireworks.
Yeah, it took a while to walk away from that. It's like I always say, fireworks on the 4th of July, making up the plans that you made.
Now, when I heard this one for the first time, my first thought was, oh, Monster loves this song, because this sounds like that 90s alt-rock that this could be played next to Hootie and the Blowfish or Splendor, and or just some other Sunday watch the game sports bar band.
I said the same thing. I said huge 90s power pop. Like it reminded me of Athenaeum. It reminded me so much of like Athenaeum, Counting Crows, like that kind of thing. Was really into it. There's one weird sounds like though for me. Around 145, the section that it goes into.
It goes like this, and we never walk away. The past is the past, it's here to stay. It goes
Reminded me a lot of The Fray. And that's not cool. Like I don't like that, but like everything before and after, especially after, because once they, kind of disappointed me with the Fray thing, then it turns into like a Zac Brown band song for like the last hoedown section where it gets like
That's exactly what I wrote in my notes is hoedown.
like I hear a stand-up bass, I hear like the fiddle going.
Yeah.
You got a little female vocal in there. It's fun. Like I like that they ended the album in a fun way, because coming out of the song before it being such a like super dramatic, powerful, like lyrically driven kind of song, it's cool that they'd go with this, which is a completely different vibe of anything else on the album.
Oh yeah.
And end it in such kind of like a hoedown sort of way.
So I almost wrote down what's the other band you just Athenaeum, but I wrote down Splendor, and I didn't want to write down two bands that we've done on our show before.
Well, more people should listen to Athenaeum. So that's all I'm going to say there.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that band before.
Oh, you've heard one of their songs.
I like how you just avoided trying to pronounce it as well.
I think I just said it properly.
So they had one big hit in the 90s, but they're actually from here. They're from Greensboro, North Carolina. And so they were kind of like local boys done good. And that one song is called What I Didn't Know. And if you heard it, you might recognize it, but it's very much of its time. It's a 90s college rock. It's not quite heavy enough to be rock, but it's not quite poppy enough to be pop. It was real big for a little while, but they never had a good follow up. So they never really went anywhere. But anytime every once in a while they'll do a reunion show around here and it always packs out. I've went to 2 of their final concerts and in both times it's always a lot of fun. They're a cool band. But anyway,
yeah, I'll check them out.
But this is a fun song, right up my alley. I like it.
Yeah, I like the Southern guitar kind of tone to it, the rockabilly kind of vibe. It seems like it's just I don't know, like a good time song. It feels like it's what they're just like, hey, we're finishing the record. Like, you want to go like start a fire, put some hot dogs on and some burgers. Like, oh, the kids are coming. Hey, let's have them sing a part of this song. It just kind of feels like a hangout vibe song. And I think it works really well for what it is. It's like always one of those songs that if I'm driving on the 4th of July, I'm going to blast this song. Like there's how many
it's a good
songs?
4th of July playlist song.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I had a Christmas playlist on Spotify, so I may as well go ahead and make a 4th of July playlist because I think that's our next holiday. Yeah. 4th of July playlist. All right. So after fireworks ends, after 3 minutes and 11 seconds, we're going to wait for 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes. If you have the physical CD, as TJ does. I saw it. He brought the prop. But then we get to a hidden track.
Oh, I got love. I got some fish and a lure and some bait in my pocket. Got a zip code 33 and I catch fish.
I don't know if it has a name.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know what you call it, but let me tell you, whenever we decided we were going to do this album and I went to Spotify, I looked at the track listing and I said, wait a damn minute. I was like, you can't do this. You just cut off the best song on the record.
The best song, the most memorable thing to me. Oh, that's amazing.
So
I told my wife, I said, when we do this episode, I'm going to tell everyone that is my favorite song on the album.
Hell yes.
So I mean, it was a fun, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I thought it was fun.
I mean,
yeah, no, I know. I thought it was a fun track. I mean, it's just a joke song about, once again, we're going to Arkansas.
For anybody listening that's not, going to take the time to look, because I mean, why would you? But on Spotify, track 15 is an acoustic version of Say Your Prayers.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next because I really wasn't sure where to go with this last part because on Spotify it's got that as the last one, but yeah.
And I had never heard that before because it's not on the physical CD, but I actually think that's pretty good because, like, for example, we did the Paramore album not that long ago, and they do an acoustic version of Misery Business, and it sounds like an acoustic version. Like, it just sounds like they played the song on acoustic instruments. This actually feels like a little bit of a different arrangement. There's some, I think I heard like a mandolin in there, like they're mixing some new instruments in with it. And so I think it's actually a pretty well executed acoustic track.
Wait, did we just did we just jump to Say Your Prayers acoustic?
Well, I think we're just kind of talking about both of them at the same time because it is what it is. But I was just going to say that, like, I don't think that is a suitable substitute for the Arkansas Diamond of the South that they took out.
No.
I would have much rather had this. Yeah, I'm agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had the same experience where I was like, what is this? Why is this not? Because I mean, I've had the CD since it came out. Like I've never thought to like look for it on Spotify. And then to see that acoustic, I kind of disagree with you. I hated listening to that acoustic version of Saving Prayers.
I didn't like it either. It was, to me, it just sounded like a southern rock version of it, and I like the other one better.
With so much auto-tune,
Yeah.
like there's not really a lot of auto-tune on this record. Like you can hear like a little bit of pitch correction with Melodyne and stuff, but that acoustic song, there's the auto, whatever, I don't know if they actually use auto-tune, whatever tuning they were using, just the processing and the vocals, his vocals sound so nasally, and I was like, I can't take this.
And we can be 1000% sure there is no auto tune on the hidden track because none of them dudes are singing in key.
The other day, I shot a deer, and I ate him up, into my belly.
It's so bad.
I think there's one mic in the room, and that's what you're getting.
I think
there's
you're right.
40 people in that room.
Yeah, and I really feel like they're like sitting there like saying, "Come here, no, make it up, just sing something."
And a boat. I got the beat and the codes at Kevin and the Trev. And I got my number one best friend in the world, Mark Lee Townsend.
I don't really feel like there was much planning that went into that track at all, and I'm cool with it. I had fun with it. I wouldn't say it's the best song on the album, but I thought it was a lot more fun, and I feel like it definitely should have been the track 15 on Spotify.
I would be curious if there's a reason they didn't want to put that on Spotify. Because I feel like it would have to be the wedding's decision to not put that on there. Maybe it could be a label thing, but I just wonder if maybe they were like, this is too goofy and it detracts from the album or something. I don't know, but I think it shows a fun side that is kind of missing without it.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory about this. When you send your albums in to be put on like any sort of distribution for streaming, or if you're sending your album off to get put on like a vinyl, you have to send like specific files. So what I'm assuming what they did is they didn't want to put a 10-minute long song at the very end, and they just cut it. And they were like, oh, that track just doesn't exist anymore. And I think it's only specifically on the record, because I looked for it on other streaming platforms and I didn't see it. So
the wedding is, they are who they are, but the musical geniuses of Crazy Town, here's what they did on their album.
Okay, I was going to go to Crazy Town as well. I was going to go exactly, but I was not going to use the term musical geniuses of Crazy Town.
Yeah, no one should. But essentially, on their album Dark Horse, they had 2 hidden tracks. And the way their tracks worked out was after the last song, you had to skip through a bunch of blank tracks to get to the first hidden track. And then you had to skip through a bunch more to get to the second hidden track. And neither one of them were worth skipping. Like the moments of silence between the two were better than the actual songs. But they basically just made it like the last 2 tracks of like the streaming service.
Oh yeah.
So,
but it was like track 43 and 52 or something like that. Even
it was
on Spotify.
Stupid. Yeah, it was really dumb. But I want to say Deftones. What was it they did? They either put the hidden track as like the final track of the album, or I think they even put like, they might have had like a 12 or 13 minute song and put like the name of the first song dash name of the second song and just left it like the whole thing. But yeah, you might be right. They might have just like got to the point where the music stopped and just cut it off and just,
it's interesting that was your theory on that one, because I know that like on I forget which Coheed and Cambria album it was, they had a secret track on it, but you could actually skip through the tracks of silence, and on Spotify for a while, I think it's been taken down now, that part of it has, but it was like each track was listed, it was like 3 seconds, and it was just a whole lot of nothing. It was like a whole lot of nothing, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so, I wonder if that's something.
Spotify won't allow you to do that anymore. Because there were bands that were like Corey Wong and stuff were putting out like blank albums on Spotify that were like hours long that had no music. and people are streaming it.
Huh.
So Spotify cracked down on having no sound on your albums.
That's
Yeah.
We're so punk rock. Our album is silent.
Yeah.
It's crazy because it worked too.
Yeah,
like people would just play it all day long because it's not playing anything, and
Right.
you're just getting all the streaming numbers, and everyone's sleeping listening to your non-existent music.
I mean, I'm not mad at it.
Somebody's got to find a way to make 12 cents. So,
Yeah. I'm
But,
still
all right.
waiting on that 12 cents.
Yeah. And like Monster said before, that if a band ever gets a boost, it's probably because we're doing your album for our show.
Yeah. Between the two of us, we have streamed your album 67 times. So
Yeah.
hope that helps.
Yeah, I know. I listened to this one at least 8 times, and I know I listened to again at least 15 times.
Oh my.
Yeah, I didn't want to listen to it for a while after we got done with the episode. But
I don't think I could listen to again. Like I listened to again enough that if I listen to again, I'll never listen to it again.
all right, I'm done with you.
Ever again. I do have one more thing I want to say about this hidden track. This is like crazy special to me for some reason. Oh, Arkansas, diamonds of the South.
Oh, Arkansas, the diamond of the South. Hey!
That is something that I hear on a regular basis in my life.
Yeah.
Kyle was over the other night, one of our vocalists, and I'm just like eating my food, and I just hear, oh, Arkansas. And the whole house is just, filled with that. We toured with, his name is Abishai. He's been in Wolves at the Gate, like Project 86, The Overseer. He's been a drummer in like every band, and he knew the guys from the wedding. And like, if I could, I would have just sat him down and interrogated him about this record and about this specifically. Because I'm pretty sure he told me like he was there or around when they were like writing this record and tracking it.
Oh,
And
that's
if I could, I should have just reached out to him and called him and been like, I need all the details about this record. But yeah, man, Diamonds of the South, it's perfect.
Me and the missus do it too. Just break out in song out of the complete blue.
Oh yeah, but ours is like we do the same thing, but it's very random. Like one of the kids, like the heat in the house kicked on, and one of the kids was like, "The heat is on," and both of us at the same time were like, "The heat is on." Yeah. So, all right, Monster, what's new with you?
Hey, hey, good looking. What you got? Cooking.
So for as eclectic and weird as this album is, like as far as blending genres and stuff, there's not a lot of like new metal bouncy stuff. But I said Staring at the Light. Specifically, like I said, that guitar riff in the verses. Is it time to rock and Say Your Prayers has some kind of bouncy riffs in it, but that one in particular, that like you could almost picture if he decided not to sing the way he sings on it, you could almost rap on top of it, and you could almost turn it into kind of a new metal thing. But it's a bit of a stretch, but it's all I got.
Yeah, fair.
Danger, what's cooking?
I'm gonna go with Misery Loves Company. I was gonna go with the rock song until that false ending happened, and then their tambourine solo. Then I just hated everything that was being pumped into my eardrums. So, yeah. So, with that, we have new and cooking. And TJ, did we come up with clever?
You got to give us something. Just hell, whatever your favorite song is or favorite moment or something.
So the potato core moment of this record is is it okay to like? Is it? Well, I can't even think of the name anymore. It's time to rock. It's the OK song.
Right.
The one where they politely ask us if they can rock.
Yes.
It's time to rock. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It's what I'm just about,
Hands down. I will listen to that forever. I think like out of all the songs on this record, for me, that one is my favorite. hands down.
And you said that was the inspiration behind which ongoing concept song?
So we have a song called Soul, and it's like one of our more like southern rock songs that we've ever written.
Cool.
And a lot of like he does the ha 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 at the end of that song, and like I just told Kyle while we were tracking vocals for our song, I was like, we need to put a ha ha in here, and it's in there because of the wedding.
I'm going to listen to that as soon as we get off of here.
Yeah, there's a pretty interesting story about that song, because like the chorus is "I sold my soul to the devil," and we used to play a lot of churches and like Christian festivals and stuff, and to hear a bunch of Christians in Germany, like 500 of them screaming, "I sold my soul to the devil" back at you is a crazy experience, man.
I'm sure.
Something.
Did they do the ha ha ha?
No.
Something about the German part also makes it scarier.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure
Oh,
why.
Yeah. I feel like being in a crowd of that many Germans is also scary, but you know.
No, it's like the brutal honesty, and they don't even realize they're being brutal.
Oh yeah. No,
I don't think they're being brutal. It's just that tone of voice. It comes out brutal.
Yeah, they just
Well,
sound
like,
angry.
I don't like that, but that is good. Like, okay.
No, people in Europe are very just straightforward. So, all right. So, TJ, as a guest, our first guest on the show, I would actually like for you to go first in your closing statement.
Yeah. So I did actually write like a summary. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been flipping through notes this entire time.
Yeah, we've seen it. Which I have to commend you on. You have handwritten notes. I've never handwritten a note for the show. It's always been typed up on the computer.
I should have typed them up, but it's just easier for me to get my thoughts down.
That's fine.
Quicker.
It's funny because I type up my notes for this, but when I'm working and I'm talking to people like on the phone and gathering information and stuff, I handwrite it all. Like I can't type and talk. Like it feels weird. I have to handwrite it every time.
I do the same thing. So I
okay.
understand that.
Cool.
Yeah, there's just something tangible about writing, because like for work, it's all on the computer. But I don't. Whenever it comes to music stuff, I like to write everything down for some reason. I don't.
Same.
It's a weird ism of mine. I don't know.
Oh, that's fine.
But
if that's the worst thing you got, you're doing pretty good.
Well, I'm left-handed, so there's that too.
Oh, there's
Makes
the
writing
problem.
in notebooks so much harder.
Do you ever feel left out?
All the time.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's not all right.
It's like the side of your hand just the lady's left-handed. I make fun of her for being left-handed. So. Anyway,
Please give us your closing statement.
The Wedding crafted an incredibly dynamic album full of genre-defining instrumentation. While Polarity would be considered a Christian rock album to most, they sidestep a lot of the cliches and pitfalls that their contemporaries seem to lean into. They managed to write like a thoughtful record and didn't shy away from experimenting, whether that's in the song structure or weaving in and out of multiple different genres by adding horns, strings, cowbells, and even bagpipes. They prove that there's no right way to write a rock song. Polarity gives you a bit of everything, whether or not you like it, that's up to you, but you've got to give them credit for having the audacity to try to write this record. I would say it's an 8.59.
all right.
I love that he did 3 numbers. That makes me so happy.
Oh yeah. No, I was
noticed
curious.
you guys started doing that, so.
Oh yeah. No, we started with whole numbers and then we had to start putting in decimals once we got up to like, I don't know, 30 albums. It was like, okay, we have to everything's tight at this point. So
I had to fit in with you guys, so I wanted to do extra,
I don't
Thank
think
you.
I've
That's
had
very
somebody
sweet.
want to fit in with me, but that's nice. I appreciate that. All right, Monster, do you want to give us yours or do you want me to go first?
Nah, I want you to go first.
Of course
Well,
you
second.
do. Of course you do. All right. I wouldn't say run of the mill would describe this album. What we got here is 14 tracks of early 2000s emo anthems and good moods. They have shown us that if Ohio is for lovers, then Arkansas is just for a damn good time. The Wedding gave us a solid album, but my biggest criticism is it sounds just a little too late. It sounds more like 2002 emo than 2007. But I guess things move a little slower in the Midwest, or is it keeping Midwest emo alive? Let's not forget about the hidden track, though. On the CD, a CD trick that is now gone with physical media. They show they are serious musicians that don't take themselves too serious. which is always refreshing to hear the silliness that happens in the van when the band is at their most real and honest. This would have been a great pickup in 2007 and an even greater bargain bin pickup in 2010. I'm glad that Monster and TJ brought this one to my attention as I largely missed the wedding. I gave this a 6.79.
So I another reason I wanted you to go before I went is because TJ, you and I wrote the same paragraph. So I didn't want to read them back to back.
All right, Monster, do you want to give us your closing statement?
Sure. Polarity is an album that has a mix of a lot of things. And when I say a lot of things, what I mean to say is it's a mix of all the things. Genre-wise, you've got pop punk, southern rock, piano ballads, 90s power pop, and more. Instrument-wise, you've got horns, strings, banjos, and even bagpipes. Does the album sound a little disjointed at times? Yes. Does it ever sound boring or uninspired? No. At no point do the weddings sound like they are phoning anything in. This sounds like a group of young, energetic kids with hearts and minds full of Jesus, and they are ready to tell you about it in every genre they know how to play. And in that way, it feels very genuine. They aren't afraid to come right out and say what they mean, and I think they really do mean it. For my taste, I like it a little better when they lean into the heavier stuff, but there's no denying that they can write catchy songs in a lot of different rock genres. I do think it goes on a little too long, and the track order could be rearranged slightly to give it a smoother flow. However, I have a lot of sentimental love for this album, and overall, I think it's a lot of fun and enjoyed just about every song in some capacity. So 1 to 10, I gave it a 7.85.
Oh man, I was like way too kind compared to you guys. I was up there.
Well, but that's cool because you had requested it to begin with, which means you probably had either a really high connection to it or because I think like when me and Danger first started this, that was sort of what we did was like I would pick one of my favorite albums and make him listen to it. And then it turned into we were like, okay, well, this is fun. Let's just like, what are just some stuff that would make for good conversations? Like a new band we just discovered or a band that we don't love, but thought should have been more popular. So, you know, usually when people request something, it's because they love it and they're interested to hear what these two jackasses have to say. So no, I think that's great.
That's actually the name of our new show, These Two Jackasses.
Yeah, it's the exact same show. We're just shirtless the whole time. So I appreciate the fact that you came in like at the highest point there,
and also with a shirt on. So,
yeah, that's not an option. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not taking it off.
All right.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
So Monster gave The Wedding Polarity a 7.85. I gave it a 6.79, and TJ gave it a 8.59, which gives it a total of an average of 7.743, putting The Wedding in the number 6 position, just below Falling in Reverse and just above Spirit Box.
Ooh, that would be an interesting tour. I don't know
if it's a tour I'd want to go see.
I feel like the wedding could pull it off, but they would have to play only the heavier stuff.
And no tambourine. Just no tambourine.
I don't think they have a tambourine player with them. That would be backtracked anyways.
Yeah.
I think you're good.
Yeah.
No, I bet they have an auxiliary guy that plays cowbell and tambo.
All the things.
Like, yeah. That's what you need.
It'll be like the violin players that Skillet has on the risers, but it's just a tambourine guy just to piss you off.
So, if you disagree with the score, then please just email at breakdownsbreakfast@gmail.com or head on over to one of our social media platforms, Breakdowns for Breakfast across all those, or check us out on the Facebook page for Breakdowns for Breakfast. If you have a suggestion for something you'd like to hear in the future, then please let us know what that would be. Speaking of the future, Monster, what album are we talking about next week?
Before I do that, I want to give TJ a second to plug anything he wants to plug. And obviously, thank you so much for coming on here and doing this with us. It was a lot of fun.
I was going to say thank you at the end after.
Well, I wanted to do that before I do the final thing. So
fine.
We obviously did not rehearse very well. But no, so yeah, TJ, tell people how to find you and if you want them to find you or not.
Yeah, I mean, just the ongoingconcept.com is the easiest place to find where my band's at. But as far as following me, I don't do anything personally that's all that entertaining outside of the band, so it's not really worth it. Yeah, but I really appreciate you guys having me on. And I'm grateful that you guys let me cover this record. Like, I think that this record for me kind of like speaks to what the Ongoing Concepts music is now, where it just doesn't really make sense and it's all over the place. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys doing this with me.
Oh, we appreciate you doing it with us.
Yeah, anybody that's listened to our show knows we're big fans of the Ongoing Concept and think very highly of you. So for you to come and hang out with us on this is like, it's a really cool moment for us. We sincerely appreciate you coming and hanging out with us for sure.
Yeah, dude, it's incredible that you guys are fans of my band. So that's
It's
wild.
incredible that you've
thank
listened to our show. I'm not even gonna say fan, just you know we exist.
Oh no, I'm a fan. I mean, I was telling Casey when I was on the phone with him, I was like, it's weird that you're responding to me because most of the time when I'm listening to you talk, I don't get to say anything at all. So
Yeah, TJ had said several times, it's like listening to a conversation that he can't be a part of. And,
yeah.
you know, so I'm glad you were here to be a part of the conversation with us. So.
Definitely.
Yeah, me too.
And we'll do it again sometime for sure. For sure. So to Danger's point, next week we will be checking out the 2021 album Ain't It Tragic by Dead Sarah. No, real quick, guys. What do you call friends you like to eat with?
What? Who? What?
Taste buds.